Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about Windows emulation on Android with not Win Now, but Winlator, and Winlator has just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, Winlator 10.0 Final is the latest update, and I think some people will find this update pretty exciting. They've got an improved task manager, they've added GPU info to the start menu, they've added missing GStreamer plugins, and they've added configuration for Vortec. Under Vortec, this one is huge. They've added support for Mali devices. And on top of that, because yes, there's more here, they've added fixes for vertex explosion for Mali devices. They've added fixes for character animations that remain in T-Pose Direct3D 9 games. And they've added support for some texture formats for devices that don't support them. They've added fixes for some games that freeze on startup. They've improved compatibility with Messa's Inc., and they've improved performance. And on top of that, they've included stuff from Beta 1 and Beta 2. If you're interested in Winlator and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. And speaking about sources, next up we're talking about the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. Now we've talked about this one in the past when it was initially rumored to be in existence, and we've recently talked about it when images of this game have popped up online. And a lot of people are reporting that this game is set to release possibly today, possibly this week. And it's now popping up over on SteamDB. Unfortunately, I do not have a firm release date for this thing yet. But in my opinion, it's not a matter of if this game is going to be remastered. It's a matter of when the game is going to release. And that to me is pretty exciting. Next up, we're talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, specifically Switch 2 cartridges and backwards compatibility. And here is a tweet from Does It Play. This statement from Marvelous Games about the Switch 2 edition for Rune Factory shows how the cross-gen physical release works. Card fits into both systems. Also, no need to download the full game, probably has the physical games are just keys crowd scratching their heads now. So let's quickly take a look at this from Marvelous Games about Rune Factory. What is the physical Nintendo Switch 2 edition? The Nintendo Switch 2 edition is a red 64GB game card that includes in full the Nintendo Switch game and the upgrade pack. There's no need to download the full game, simply insert the card into either Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 console, and the correct version will launch automatically. Like most modern titles, there may be small updates or patches available at launch to provide minor fixes and improvements, but rest assured the complete game is on the game card, ready to play from day one. Now it's worth noting that this is specifically for Rune Factory from Marvelous Games for the Switch 2. This may not apply to every single game out there, and I can almost bet that it's not going to apply to every single game out there. But at the same time here, this is really good news for people who have an existing Switch who wanted to play Switch 2 games. And also for people who have a Switch 2 who don't want to have to download stuff immediately just to play a game. Having physical games included on the full physical game included on the card is awesome. On top of that, in terms of emulation, I'm assuming then that a lot of these Switch 2 games that are backwards compatible are going to work in Switch emulators. Moving on, and we're talking about Fortnite, and yes, Fortnite is still a thing, it's still very popular, and it's about to get a Star Wars crossover. If you're a fan of Star Wars and if you're a fan of Fortnite, or if you're a fan of one or the other, you might like this update here. And if you're a fan of Jar Jar Binks possibly being Darth Jar Jar Binks, well, this may be right up your alley. I mean, the trailer is only 37 seconds long, but there's Darth Jar Jar in all of his glory. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. It's got a lot of views already for just being released a day ago. I'm assuming that a lot of people who are excited about Fortnite are probably going to be excited about this and make it into Star Wars because of this. But I'm really wondering, if you're not a fan of Fortnite but a huge fan of Star Wars, would this make you want to try out Fortnite? And speaking about trying stuff out, next up we're talking about the PlayStation 5 and PS5 rentals in Japan. Now, in a previous video, I think we talked about the PS5 rental proposal in the UK, and it was a very interesting thing here. I didn't necessarily agree with it just due to the huge prices for 12, 24, or 36 months. It just made more sense to save up for a PS5 or maybe just not buy a PS5 if that's the case. But if it was someone looking at it for like a month or something like that, maybe. But this is very interesting to me. And let me know your thoughts about this one here. Anyways, it seems that Japan is renting out PS5s, a store in Japan rather, is renting out PS5s for about $6.62 a week, or 15 days for $12.02. And it seems that Monster Hunter Wilds is really popular for this. But let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below, because I am genuinely curious to hear your thoughts on the matter. Do you think I'm out to lunch for thinking that renting is not the most economical solution when going about trying out a console? I mean, a 36-month lease here for a PS5 digital with 2 controllers, this is in the UK, is $13.49 a month. That gets pretty pricey over a 3-year period. I would say it's much more worth it just to buy the console. But maybe I'm wrong here, given the fact that in Japan these rentals are extremely popular. But I don't know here. I mean, this does seem to be popular, so there does seem to be a pretty big use case for it. And I mean, $6.62 for a week or $12.02 for 15 days seems relatively reasonable if you're maybe not a gamer. Maybe you wanted to play the PS5 for a couple of weeks, but you didn't want to buy the console. Maybe you just wanted to play Monster Hunter Wilds. And that to me makes sense. Or you can't afford a PS5 but still wanted to enjoy the game while it's popular online, and that also makes sense. But on the other hand, the part about that I'm confused about is the price of Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, someone is going to have to pick up the game unless they're borrowing it from a friend, in which case, why aren't they borrowing the PS5 as well? Or on top of that, the price of PS Plus just to play the game online. But moving on and talking about money, but this time the opposite, spending no money. Next up, we're talking about Star Wars Outlaws, which has just released a free demo for the game. So if you are curious about this one, the free demo is up on Steam and it's got a mostly negative review score, which is kind of surprising for a free demo. Now, taking a look at the reviews, and this person says it took about a dozen attempts to launch before it actually started up, and the first combat section didn't even last a full second. Thank you, Ubisoft, for momentarily making me waste 30 gigabytes. Now, I've taken a look at a few reviews, and it does seem that crashing appears to be an issue. This person says, I really wanted to like this game. I've been looking forward to it since it was announced. The demo took 8 attempts to launch. Once it launched, the load screens took forever. It finally started, and I spent 10 minutes just watching my ship fly inside a cloud. Button presses did nothing, and this counts towards the 3 hours. If you've tried out the demo, let me know your thoughts about it. Is it constantly crashing? Is it nice and polished? Is it working well? I'm very curious here because it does seem that most people are complaining that the demo is not set up very well. It's not optimized well considering it's crashing. And you only get 3 hours of gameplay, and those 3 hours of gameplay are not transferable to the full game. Any saves you make within this demo are contained to this demo. And speaking about time limits, next up we're talking about Linux kernel 6.13, which is out of time. 6.13 has reached end of life. If you are using 6.13, you might want to upgrade to 6.14. Or possibly take a look at 6.12 LTS. And on a side note here, before I get blasted in the comments about this, I've got a really bad habit of reading this as 6.13. It's 6.13. 6.13 may be misinterpreted as 6.1.3. So when I say 6.12 LTS, I meant 6.12 LTS. And that one is supported until December 2026. So it's either going with new or something a little bit older here. And speaking about Linux and updates, next up we're talking about Ubuntu, and this one is very interesting. It's being reported that Ubuntu 25.04 upgrades have been halted due to Kubuntu users getting a broken desktop. So based on my understanding, it seems the initial issue they thought was a PyQt6 issue, which turns out is not necessarily entirely the case. They're saying here the issue may be much greater. We're going to have to wait and see here. Surprised this was not picked up during beta testing, but at the same time, mistakes happen and there are issues. There's a lot of issues with a lot of things nowadays. Anyways, I've got no timeline in terms of fixes or anything like that, but if you are using Ubuntu 25.04 and we're thinking about switching to Kubuntu 25.04, you may just want to wait. Next up here, we're talking about a game that's getting quite a bit of attention online, and that's an indie game called Riven Crown. So this game is supposed to be a Souls-like game with rhythm-based combat. The announcement trailer is up on YouTube. If you are curious about this one, you can check it out. If you're a fan of Souls-like games and I guess the entire environment and the entire aesthetic, you might be a fan of this. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a release date or price or anything of that nature just yet, but based on my understanding, this is only going to be available on Steam. I'm not necessarily sure if it will be ported to consoles. And speaking about trailers, next up we're talking about Doom: The Dark Ages. And Doom the Dark Ages just got a brand new trailer over on YouTube, and I do recommend checking it out. I think they're spending quite a bit in advertising for this game. If I'm not mistaken, they also had an ad during WrestleMania. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a few things today, not a whole bunch. It was a shorter video than normal, but feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.